Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to unpack something that literally stops people in their tracks. We're talking about the construction of the pyramids. If you've ever stood in front of these massive structures, or honestly, even just looked at a high-res photo online, you've probably caught yourself wondering, how on earth was this physically possible? Well, today, we're going to break down the sheer genius of ancient engineering step by step. Okay, so let's just address the elephant in the room and confront the biggest myth right out of the gate. We've all heard the conspiracy theories, right? That they were built by magic or ancient aliens or some lost super science from a forgotten world because it was supposedly impossible for ancient people to do it. But actually, the real truth is way more fascinating than the sci-fi myths. These structures are hard proof of what ordinary humans can pull off when they solve a problem so brilliantly that their work literally survives for thousands of years. And this slide perfectly illustrates where we need to start. Think about what they didn't have. No modern cranes, no steel frames, zero combustion engines, and definitely no CAD software. But what they did have was actually far more effective for their era. They had hands, minds, sweat, immense patience, and a level of brilliant state-level organization that we honestly still struggle to fully wrap our heads around today. They didn't need modern miracles, you guys. They just needed organization, applied math, and a frankly mind-blowing understanding of materials. Section 1. The real ancient superpower. So, look at this timeline. The Egyptians didn't just wake up one morning and build the Great Pyramid. It took centuries of intense trial, error, and revision. Early kings started with these simple, flat-roofed tombs known as mastabas. Then, as they got more ambitious, they made this massive leap in design with the step pyramid at Saqqara, which eventually culminated in the Great Pyramid we all know. It's an amazing record of humanity learning how to turn an idea into stone and passing that knowledge down generation by generation. Section 2. Mastering Scale and Logistics. Long before a single rock was stacked, the math and planning going on behind the scenes was wild. Engineers had to survey the site, really understand the bedrock they were building on, and meticulously plan out the alignment. They were mapping out transport routes and doing massive logistical equations to estimate exact manpower needs. I mean, they had to figure out how to keep thousands of workers fed and housed before ground was ever even broken. I absolutely love this quote. It's been said that in many ways, the pyramid was less a pile of rocks and more a giant national project. Just imagine trying to mobilize tens of thousands of people across an entire civilization to work for years on a single monument, and doing it all without a single digital blueprint, spreadsheet, or smartphone. That alone tells you we are dealing with highly intelligent, intensely disciplined people. Section 3. Moving mountains of stone. Okay, so how do you actually get a multi-ton block of stone from a quarry through the desert? You have to master friction reduction. Ancient builders figured out that if they just poured a little water on the sand right in front of their heavy wooden sledges, dragging those massive stones became so much easier. They understood practical physics. They weren't just stubbornly brute forcing their way through the sand. They knew that one tiny, brilliant adjustment could make an impossible job possible. And check out this toolkit. It sounds so basic to us now, right? Copper tools, dolerite pounding stones, some wooden sledges, and ropes made from plant and animal fibers. Oh, and sighting tools and plumb lines for alignment. But by adapting this incredibly simple technology perfectly to their environment, they were able to quarry, shape, and pull loads that totally baffle modern observers. So once the blocks were actually at the site, how'd they get them up? The consensus points to ramps and levers. To lift stones several stories into the air, they used these straight, zigzagged, or even spiraled ramps, dragging the stones up the incline and carefully nudging them into place with wooden levers and just sheer coordinated muscle. The true genius here was taking time, human labor, and organization and applying it at a scale we simply don't see anymore. This is where we really have to shift our brains a bit. The modern mindset is all about speed, automation, and getting things done instantly. But the ancient mindset, it was entirely built on endurance, deep, long-term planning, and generational repetition. Think about the effort to move just one block into place. Now multiply that by millions, over decades. They embraced human persistence and literally turned patience into architecture. Section 4. The people behind the pyramids. I want you to try and picture the sheer sensory overload of this worksite. The constant noise, the shouting of the crews, the harsh scraping of stone on stone, the loud creak of wooden sledges. Imagine the sun beating down, the smell of sweat and dust everywhere. This wasn't some quiet, mystical miracle happening in the desert. It was an explosive, massive, incredibly loud hub of human activity. And here is a major myth bust for you. These workers were not simplistic slaves, despite what old Hollywood movies might tell you. They were highly skilled laborers and incredibly organized crews. They were managed by foremen, directed by elite architects, and they received housing and actual medical care. And their payment? Rations of bread, fish, and, yes, for sure, a whole lot of beer. This was a fully functioning society rallying its entire agricultural system to build a shared vision. The level of precision they pulled off is just staggering. For instance, the Great Pyramid is aligned almost perfectly to the cardinal directions: north, south, east, west. How did they do it without compasses? Simply by observing the sun, tracking shadows, and watching the circumpolar stars. They basically turned the night sky into a giant surveying tool, merging their cutting-edge practical science right into their sacred beliefs. Section 5. Building for Eternity. Let's look at the materials, because they were actively solving a massive engineering optimization problem here. They heavily used limestone because it was relatively soft and efficient to quarry, perfect for the huge bulk of the pyramid. But for the structural heavy lifting and the crucial interior chambers, they brought in granite. Granite is incredibly hard and an absolute nightmare to transport, but it was structurally necessary. They balanced cost, durability, and transport, relying completely on human memory and experience. And the outside wasn't always this sandy, stepped ruin we see today. Originally, it was covered in outer casing stones cut so precisely that the entire monument was a smooth, continuous surface. It actually gleamed brilliantly under the desert sun. Imagine seeing a blindingly bright mountain of white stone reflecting light for miles. That visual effect alone loudly communicated the sheer power, permanence, and divine order of their civilization. But why go through all this trouble? Well, at its core, the pyramid was basically a giant resurrection machine. It wasn't just a fancy tomb. It was considered a sacred necessity. It was built to physically help the pharaoh journey into the afterlife, and by doing so, preserve the cosmic order of the universe itself. When an entire society believes a building is quite literally keeping the universe in balance, you better believe they're going to mobilize the whole nation to get it built. The shape itself is no accident either. A pyramid is just naturally powerful. It's incredibly structurally efficient because it spreads all that massive weight downward, heavily resisting collapse. This is exactly why you see ancient humans in totally unconnected parts of the world, like Mesoamerica and Egypt, independently discovering this exact same form. It's just structurally profound that different cultures reached for the exact same geometry to project power and stability. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a bit of a heavy question about legacy. Think about our modern world. If every machine, every server, every piece of software disappeared today, what would we leave behind that could outlast our civilization by 4,000 or 5,000 years? The pyramids are this ultimate reminder that when human intelligence meets insane ambition, we are capable of shaping history forever. Thanks for joining me to uncover the very real human genius behind these wonders. See you next time.